Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive. We're tackling one of humanity's most profound and, frankly, mind-bending questions. It's a concept that often feels like it's been plucked straight from the pages of a science fiction novel, doesn't it? Yet it genuinely captivates philosophers, scientists, and, even casual thinkers all around the globe. Our focus for this session of advanced English listening practice: are we living in a simulation?
Oh, it's a huge one. It's a question that profoundly challenges our most fundamental assumptions about what reality even is. It forces us to consider that everything we perceive, everything we experience, might not be as solid or as real as we instinctively assume it to be. It's truly an inquiry that makes you just stop and, rethink everything.
I couldn't agree more. It really does. So our mission today is to unpack this complex, deeply intriguing, and maybe at times unsettling idea, what's known as the simulation hypothesis. We want to do it in a way that's accessible, engaging, and genuinely thought-provoking for you, our listener. Think of this as a captivating journey, sort of weaving through cutting-edge science, ancient philosophy, and, impactful pop culture too. Our aim is really to make this grand concept much clearer, kind of distilling the key insights into something truly graspable.
Exactly. And throughout this exploration, our objective is to pull out the essential nuggets of knowledge, the implications of this theory. We want to offer you a direct route to understanding this weighty topic. So regardless of your prior familiarity with it, maybe you've seen The Matrix, maybe not, by the end of our deep dive, you'll possess a really comprehensive grasp of its many nuances and the various perspectives surrounding it.
That's precisely what we're aiming for. So over the next while, we're going to trace the surprisingly ancient origins of this concept. We'll clarify its core meaning, then rigorously examine the compelling arguments that seem to lend it support. And importantly, we'll also confront the robust counter-arguments that challenge its validity. And perhaps most importantly, ponder what it might genuinely mean for us, for our daily lives, if this truly wild idea were to turn out to be our underlying truth.
Indeed. By the conclusion of this deep dive, you, the listener, will possess a remarkably comprehensive understanding of the diverse facets and viewpoints surrounding this really astonishing theory. It's a landscape of ideas far richer and more intricate than you might initially imagine, and we're excited to guide you through it.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're starting right at the very foundation. What exactly is the simulation hypothesis? At its heart, this idea proposes that what we perceive as reality, literally every single detail, from the simple sensation of taste when you have your morning coffee to the vast, incomprehensible cosmic phenomena like galaxies colliding, could be nothing more than a sophisticated digital construct. It's like an incredibly advanced virtual reality, but one that encompasses absolutely everything we know.
That's a very apt description. And when people first hear this concept, their minds often jump straight to a film like The Matrix. And while that movie undeniably did a monumental job of bringing the idea into mainstream consciousness, it's crucial to remember something. The hypothesis isn't so much about, sleek leather trench coats or elaborate fight choreography.
Right.
It's far more fundamental. It's about the underlying code, the mathematical principles that could govern our entire existence, rather than just like a cinematic flourish. It posits that our physical laws, our conscious experiences, everything could just be computation.
Here's where it gets truly fascinating, I think. While the underlying philosophical question has been pondered for ages, really, it was a philosopher named Nick Bostrom who truly propelled it into rigorous academic and scientific discussion. He did this with his profoundly influential 2003 paper provocatively titled, "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" Now, he didn't invent the concept, as we'll see, but he undeniably gave it a solid, logical, and statistically compelling framework. A framework that compelled philosophers and scientists alike to take it seriously as a testable, or at least maybe a highly probable idea.
Absolutely. His contribution was transformative. Bostrom's work shifted the conversation from mere, whimsical speculation, from a fun sci-fi what-if,
right,
to a structured, logical argument with profound statistical implications. He laid out a set of possibilities that, once you consider them, they demand serious intellectual consideration, because they lead to some rather startling conclusions about our likelihood of being in what we call base reality.
And that framework is what he famously termed his trilemma, which is a term referring to a choice between three equally difficult or maybe undesirable alternatives. Bostrom argues that at least one of these scenarios is, probabilistically speaking, extremely likely to be true. So let's break them down and explore what each one implies. Okay, the first scenario is pretty straightforward, and for some, perhaps the most comforting one. It suggests that advanced civilizations simply don't reach the technological level required to create such intricate, conscious-filled simulations. Perhaps they inevitably face some kind of insurmountable technological barrier, maybe a limit to computing power or energy, we don't know. Or perhaps they simply collapse or cease to exist due to self-destruction, maybe ecological catastrophe or some other unforeseen societal collapse, before they ever achieve that kind of simulation capability on a grand scale.
That's one distinct possibility, definitely. The second scenario, however, offers a different reason why we might not be in a simulation. It suggests that even if civilizations could create such incredibly realistic simulations, they might choose not to. And there could be a multitude of compelling reasons for this abstention. Perhaps deep ethical concerns prevent them from creating conscious beings within a simulated environment, viewing it as a form of cosmic imprisonment or exploitation. Kind of like digital slavery.
That's a heavy thought.
It is. Or maybe they simply lose interest, finding other more meaningful or perhaps more resource-efficient pursuits for their advanced intelligence and vast resources. I mean, the sheer cost and maintenance of running billions of sentient simulations might just be prohibitive. Or they might perceive them as inefficient for whatever their ultimate societal goals might be. Who knows?
And then we arrive at the third scenario. This is the one that truly tends to bend minds and stir up considerable debate. If advanced civilizations can and do create many, many simulations, perhaps billions, even trillions of them, each potentially brimming with conscious life, then the statistical probability overwhelmingly favors our existence within one of those simulated realities rather than the singular, original base reality.
It boils down to a pure numbers game, doesn't it? Like a cosmic lottery.
Precisely. This is where the core argument of the hypothesis truly takes shape and gains its most persuasive power. Think of it like this. Imagine you have one original, truly unique lottery ticket. Okay? Now, a super advanced civilization with, let's say, unlimited resources prints billions upon billions of identical replica tickets, all of which feel and look just as real as the original, carrying the same numbers. Now, if you pick a ticket at random from this immense pile, what's the chance of you holding that one original non-simulated ticket?
Vanishingly small, I'd imagine. Astronomically, almost impossibly small. It's like trying to pick that single real ticket out of an immense cosmic draw containing countless copies. The sheer volume of potential simulations, assuming they are possible and that they are created, makes it statistically far, far more probable that we are in one of the copies rather than the original. That, in essence, is the powerful, almost inescapable statistical implication that Bostrom brings right to the forefront of this profound discussion.
That lottery ticket analogy really helps to crystallize the statistical argument and makes it very clear. Now, while this idea feels profoundly modern, product of our digital age, its roots actually run incredibly deep. Philosophers have been grappling with the fundamental nature of reality for millennia, long before the first computer chip was even conceived. Let's take a quick historical detour just to see how far back this curiosity stretches. We'll start way back in ancient Greece, around 380 BCE, with Plato. He introduced his famous allegory of the cave in his seminal work, The Republic. Picture this. A group of prisoners is chained from birth to a dark cave facing a blank wall. Behind them, a fire burns and people carry objects in front of it, casting shadows on the wall. For these prisoners, those dancing shadows are their entire reality. They've known nothing else. They believe the shadows are the true objects.
And that's precisely where the profound parallel to the simulation hypothesis lies, isn't it? Plato's concept of a perceived reality being a mere reflection or maybe a distorted projection of a truer, unseen reality resonates deeply with our modern idea of a digital construct. He was, in essence, suggesting that our senses might be deceiving us, that what we take for granted as the real world could just be a limited, distorted presentation of something far more fundamental, something beyond our immediate perception. It really demonstrates humanity's long-standing innate curiosity about the genuine nature of existence, stretching way back to our earliest philosophical inquiries.
Right. Now, fast forward a couple of millennia to the 17th century, and we find René Descartes, the French philosopher. He pushed this radical doubt even further in his Meditations on First Philosophy from 1641. Descartes engaged in systematic doubt, questioning everything he thought he knew, from the existence of the external world to the reliability of his own senses. He famously wondered if an evil demon, an all-powerful, supremely deceptive entity, could be manipulating all his sensory experiences, essentially fabricating his entire perceived reality, making it an elaborate, convincing illusion.
And it's absolutely fascinating how Descartes' philosophical thought experiment directly foreshadows the modern simulation hypothesis. It's uncanny, really. His profound skepticism about the authenticity of perception, driven by the possibility of a powerful external entity fabricating reality, is a direct conceptual precursor to today's debate about digital deception on a cosmic scale. Of course, his ultimate conclusion, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, became his unshakable anchor in a world of potential illusion. He established a core truth he believed he couldn't deny, the undeniable existence of his own thinking mind.
Such a powerful statement. These ancient philosophical questions, these timeless doubts about the nature of reality, they found incredibly fertile ground and new life in 20th century science fiction. Authors like Philip K. Dick were true trailblazers, fearlessly exploring these concepts in works such as The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch way back in 1965, long before personal computers were even commonplace. But then came the truly monumental impact of The Matrix in 1999, which undeniably brought the simulation concept to a global, mainstream audience in an unprecedented way. Oh, completely.
The Matrix's premise, for anyone who might not be intimately familiar, is that humanity is unknowingly living inside a vast, intricately detailed simulated world. It's powered by sentient machines, with our bodies unknowingly used as a power source. Bit grim, the iconic red pill, blue pill choice, presented by Morpheus to Neo, whether to wake up to the harsh, unsettling truth or remain blissfully ignorant within the illusion, instantly became a profound cultural touchstone. It became a universal shorthand for questioning the very nature of our reality, didn't it? Prompting millions to consider the terrifying implications.
It absolutely did, and it's difficult to overstate how much these powerful cultural narratives, particularly The Matrix, meticulously prepared the ground for Bostrom's more rigorous academic argument. The film managed to make a seemingly outlandish philosophical idea feel relatable, tangible, and crucially, surprisingly plausible to the general public.
Yeah, it really did. This cultural priming undoubtedly helped make the intellectual leap to Bostrom's paper feel less daunting, maybe more intuitive. It's no wonder that prominent figures in technology and science, people like Elon Musk, have since publicly championed the idea, often referencing The Matrix explicitly when discussing their own beliefs.
So we've laid out the deep philosophical and cultural background. Now let's get a bit more technical. Let's talk about the practical, maybe the engineering questions. Could such a simulation actually be built by a super advanced civilization? What would it truly take to create a reality so utterly indistinguishable from our own that we, as its inhabitants, would have literally no clue we were inside it?
That's a crucial line of inquiry, isn't it? Because if it's technologically impossible, then the hypothesis just falls apart right there. To even begin to address that, we need to consider the sheer unimaginable scale of computational power and the incredibly sophisticated artificial intelligence that would be required. We're talking about technology orders of magnitude, perhaps even dimensions, beyond anything we currently possess or can even truly conceive of.
One of the key ideas that often comes up here revolves around Moore's law. Now, this isn't a law of fundamental physics, more like a remarkable observation. It was made by Intel co-founder Gordon Moore way back in the 1960s. He noted that the number of transistors on a computer chip was roughly doubling every couple of years. This trend, sustained for decades, led to consistently faster, smaller, and vastly more powerful computers at an exponential rate. It basically gave us the digital revolution.
And if we project that exponential growth forward, the implications for a civilization, potentially millions, maybe even billions of years ahead of us, are truly staggering. Even if the traditional silicon-based Moore's law itself has slowed somewhat recently, the underlying principle of technological advancement continuing at an accelerating pace suggests they could possess computing power capable of simulating entire universes. We're talking about a level of detail that could account for every single atom, every photon of light, every blade of grass, and every intricate fleeting thought in every conscious mind within that universe.
Wow.
Think about how far modern hyper-realistic video games, like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Cyberpunk 2077, have come in simulating vast, detailed, believable worlds. Now imagine that's scaled up billions of times to a level where the simulated environment is absolutely indistinguishable from what we call reality, where the processing power is virtually infinite. That's the kind of potential we're considering.
Now, here's arguably the trickiest aspect, I think. The simulation of conscious beings. We're not just talking about simulating rocks and trees or even complex weather patterns. We're talking about replicating sentient individuals who think, who feel, who experience pain and joy, who possess self-awareness. So, can a computer truly simulate consciousness? Especially given our current, let's face it, incomplete understanding of what consciousness even is. This is still one of the greatest mysteries in science and philosophy.
That is indeed a fundamental hurdle, one that some consider completely insurmountable. However, proponents of the hypothesis speculate that an advanced civilization might have, in their distant future, cracked the code of consciousness itself. They might understand its fundamental building blocks, allowing them to create artificial intelligences so sophisticated, so experientially rich, that they would be utterly indistinguishable from human minds. This introduces a deeply unsettling concept within a simulated world. Are there players? Fully conscious entities like us possessing true subjective experience versus non-player characters or NPCs.
The NPCs.
Yeah, which would be incredibly sophisticated programs acting convincingly, but without true subjective experience or independent thought. And then the profound lingering question for you, the listener, arises. Are you a player or merely an NPC? The difference from an internal perspective might be impossible to ever discern.
That's unsettling. Even with that chilling thought, simulating an entire universe down to its every particle and interaction would seem to require an almost unimaginable amount of computing power, wouldn't it? I mean, physicists like Seth Lloyd have even attempted to estimate this, suggesting the processing power needed might actually exceed the total number of atoms in the observable universe. That's a truly colossal computational challenge for any potential simulator.
It is, absolutely. And that's where a very clever concept known as lazy rendering comes into play. It's a potential solution to this seemingly insurmountable resource problem. Much like how modern video games only fully render the immediate visible environment to conserve computational resources, they don't process the details of a mountain range behind you until you turn around to face it.
Right, makes sense.
A simulation could, in theory, employ a very similar mechanism. It would only fully process details and physical interactions when they are actively observed or interacted with. For example, the precise arrangement of atoms in a distant, unobserved star wouldn't need to be fully simulated until a powerful telescope is actually focused on it, or maybe a human mind actively contemplates its intricate structure. This makes the vast computational task far more manageable and efficient for the simulators. It's a smart workaround, potentially.
Okay, so with all that technological possibility and philosophical pondering on the table, why do some very smart people genuinely believe we might actually be living in a simulation right now? Let's explore the most compelling arguments that make this idea so persuasive to so many. First, and perhaps most central, is that powerful statistical argument we touched on earlier, revisiting Bostrom's trilemma.
This truly is the core probabilistic strength of the claim. If you accept the premise that advanced civilizations can create simulated realities, and given our own rapid progress in VR and AI, it seems like a plausible future for us.
There's plausible, yeah.
And that they would likely create many of them, potentially billions upon billions. Then the odds of our being in the singular original base reality become vanishingly small. It's not just a mere possibility, it transforms into a powerful statistical likelihood. To put it another way, if there are 1 million simulated universes for every one base universe, the chances of you being in that one base universe are, 1 in a million.
Just incredibly low.
Exactly. It's like imagining that die with 1 billion sides again. The chance of it landing on the one side specifically labeled base reality is incredibly improbable. We are simply far more likely to be one of the countless simulated outcomes, just a tiny data point in a vast cosmic computation.
Second, consider the breathtaking, almost unbelievable rapid pace of humanity's own technological advancement. I mean, think about it. In a mere century, we've gone from horse-drawn carriages and rudimentary flight to landing rovers on Mars and developing global communication networks that fit in our pockets. And video games, as we've mentioned, have evolved from incredibly simple pixels on a screen to vast, hyper-realistic virtual worlds that can feel astonishingly immersive and real, with complex physics and AI.
And the argument here is that if our own technological trajectory continues along this path, and there's little to suggest it won't, given our relentless drive for innovation, then the creation of hyper-realistic, utterly indistinguishable simulations seems like an almost inevitable future milestone for humanity. It feels like a natural progression of our own ingenuity. So if we are on this trajectory, then a far more advanced civilization, potentially millions of years ahead of us in their development, may have already reached or even far surpassed this capability. Their present might very well be our far-off future, a future where they routinely create and manage these complex virtual worlds for, who knows what purposes.
Third, some intriguing anomalies observed in quantum mechanics, the branch of physics governing the supersmall, are sometimes pointed to as potential clues. For instance, there's the bizarre phenomenon where tiny particles seem to decide their state or position only when they are observed or measured, this concept known as wave function collapse. It's almost as if the universe isn't fully rendered or determined until it's directly interacted with. Kind of weird.
It is weird. And this lazy rendering principle, observed at the very smallest, most fundamental level of reality, could indeed be interpreted as a resource-saving mechanism within a simulation. Why waste immense computational power fully rendering every unobserved particle if its state only needs to be determined at the precise moment of observation? It's efficient. It's as if a quantum particle exists as a blur of possibilities until we interact with it, at which point it sort of snaps into a definite state. Furthermore, some theorists point to the Planck scale, the smallest measurable units of space and time, the fundamental limits of precision in our universe. Some propose that these could represent the pixels, or the fundamental computational grid of our reality, just as a digital image is made of discrete pixels. Now, while these observations are highly suggestive, almost tantalizing, it's crucial to stress that they are interpretations, right? They're not definitive proofs. They just offer a fascinating parallel to how a simulated reality might operate.
Right. Suggestive, but not conclusive. Okay, a fourth argument brings up the famous Fermi paradox. Given the sheer vastness and immense age of the universe and the statistical probability of countless other life forms existing, why haven't we encountered any definitive evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations? Where is everybody? It's a question that has baffled scientists for decades.
And the simulation hypothesis offers a compelling potential resolution to this profound paradox. Perhaps advanced civilizations, instead of dedicating their immense resources to exploring the vast physical cosmos, choose instead to dedicate them to creating and inhabiting incredibly immersive simulated worlds. In this scenario, interstellar travel or broadcasting signals across galaxies might be seen as inefficient or maybe unnecessary for whatever their goals are.
So they're exploring inner space, not outer space.
Something like that, yeah. If this were the case, then we might not be alone in the physical universe, but rather we could be living within one of their virtual playgrounds. And their real activities, their true exploration and advancement, are happening elsewhere, perhaps in a base reality we can't even perceive.
And finally, while it's certainly not scientific proof in itself, it's worth highlighting that this isn't just some fringe idea relegated to late-night dorm room debates, is it? It's an idea taken quite seriously by prominent figures in science and technology. You have people like Elon Musk, who famously stated that the chances of us not being in a simulation are 1 in billions.
Yeah.
And even astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has publicly acknowledged its profound plausibility, urging thoughtful consideration of the concept.
That's a key point. Such endorsements, while not empirical evidence, certainly bring significant attention and a degree of intellectual legitimacy to the discussion. They demonstrate that the simulation hypothesis resonates deeply among leading thinkers in technology, science, and philosophy. It shows it's not simply a philosophical curiosity or a sci-fi fantasy, but a concept considered genuinely worthy of serious, rigorous consideration by some of the sharpest minds of our time.
But of course, not everyone is on board with the simulation idea. And there are some very solid kind of common sense counter-arguments that make you pause and wonder if this is all just a fascinating but ultimately untestable philosophical rabbit hole. One of the biggest criticisms, particularly from a scientific standpoint, is its unfalsifiability, that core scientific challenge.
This is a fundamental hurdle for any theory seeking to be classified as truly scientific, isn't it? If we were in a simulation, it would, by its very nature and design, be utterly indistinguishable from base reality. The simulators would presumably want us to believe it's real.
Yeah, you'd think so.
This makes it virtually impossible to devise an experiment that could definitively prove or disprove it. Because you can't truly test it, its unfalsifiability often categorizes it more as a captivating philosophical thought experiment, or maybe a profound metaphysical concept, rather than a truly testable scientific theory. While it's intriguing to ponder, its lack of empirical verifiability poses a significant hurdle for widespread scientific acceptance and for moving it from hypothesis to, established fact.
Next up, there's Occam's razor. This is a guiding principle in philosophy and science that states, quite simply, that the simplest explanation, the one requiring the fewest assumptions, is usually the best or most likely. It's about choosing parsimony.
And applying Occam's razor to the simulation hypothesis highlights a major point of contention for its critics. Assuming an advanced civilization exists, assuming they possess immense universe-creating computing power we can't even fathom, and assuming there's an entire hidden layer of reality beyond our perception. All of this adds significant layers of complexity to our understanding of existence, doesn't it?
It really does.
So, the simpler explanation might just be that our universe is fundamentally what it appears to be. A physical, non-simulated reality governed by its own laws, without needing to invoke an external simulator or a hidden reality. The direct observation, without adding extra layers of hypothetical explanation, is often considered the more parsimonious answer. It just requires fewer unproven assumptions.
Then there's the sheer intractability of simulating consciousness again. We touched on this earlier, but it's a big one. Since we still don't fully comprehend how consciousness works within our own reality, it's still largely a mystery to neuroscience and philosophy. The assumption that a computer could flawlessly simulate it, replicating inner experience, qualia, self-awareness, it remains a truly massive leap of faith.
It is indeed a profound and, for many, maybe an unsolvable challenge for the hypothesis. If consciousness requires something unique, whether it's a soul or some specific yet undiscovered physical processes that cannot be replicated digitally, or maybe something that isn't computational in nature at all, then a purely digital simulation might be fundamentally incapable of replicating it. And if the simulation couldn't truly replicate the richness and depth of our inner experience, the subjective what it's like to be, then logically you'd expect we would detect an experiential flaw. Something would feel fundamentally off about our reality.
Like something's missing.
Exactly, a hollow echo where genuine experience should be. But our reality, our subjective experience, it doesn't feel off in that way for most of us, does it? It feels pretty convincing.
Another fundamental question that often arises, particularly when considering the motives of these alleged simulators, is the why bother question. Why would an advanced civilization, presumably with unlimited technological prowess and access to a vast base reality, go to all the trouble of creating a simulation as complex and, frankly, as often imperfect as our world? Our world is filled with suffering, conflict, disease, and countless mundane, seemingly pointless details. Why simulate that?
It's a genuine challenge to the simulator's motive, and it forces us to reconsider the elegance or purpose of such a design. If superintelligent beings possess virtually unlimited technological prowess and presumably operate on a higher plane of existence, why wouldn't they create a more idealized or perfected simulation? Maybe one without suffering, or perhaps one that is purely for their specific, focused scientific endeavors, rather than a universe as messy, unpredictable, and often tragic as ours.
Good point.
The very imperfections and perceived irrationality of our existence, the prevalence of boredom, pain, randomness, might argue against it being a meticulously designed and managed program meant for pure observation or some grand, noble purpose. Unless, of course, the imperfections themselves are the point, which, well, that leads to some pretty uncomfortable questions about the ethics of running such a simulation.
And finally, a very practical argument that many people intuitively grasp: the absence of obvious glitches. If our universe were truly a computer program, wouldn't we expect to see bugs, errors, or inconsistencies? Much like we do in any software we use daily, from a lagging app on your phone to a video game character falling through the floor.
Indeed. Think about typical real-world computer programs or even sophisticated video games. They frequently exhibit glitches, bugs, crashes, or unexpected behaviors. Characters clipping through walls, objects popping in and out of existence, physics suddenly going haywire.
We've all seen it.
Right. Our universe, however, consistently adheres to remarkably stable and consistent physical laws. Gravity works the same way every time. Electromagnetism behaves predictably. Light travels at a constant speed, regardless of when or where we observe it. The remarkable regularity and consistency of our reality, seemingly devoid of obvious bugs or sudden violations of physical laws, could be interpreted as strong evidence that it is a fundamental physical world rather than a program that might at any moment reveal its underlying code through errors. Unless, of course, the glitches are so subtle, so deeply interwoven into the fabric of reality that we perceive them as fundamental laws or quantum weirdness rather than actual errors in the code.
Let's imagine for a moment, just for the sake of argument, that we are in a simulation. Okay, let's just accept that premise, hypothetically. What would that truly mean for us? For our individual choices, our relationships, our very existence. This is where things get profoundly philosophical and maybe a little existential. The immediate question becomes, do we have free will? Or are our choices merely following a script, like characters in a game or predetermined algorithms running?
It raises a fascinating spectrum of possibilities regarding agency, doesn't it? We could be completely predetermined, with every decision pre-programmed by the simulators, essentially living out a cosmic play. No real choice at all. Or perhaps the simulation is more like a dynamic sandbox-style game, where a degree of freedom exists, but it's still fundamentally contained within a set of programmed rules and boundaries.
Right, guardrails.
Exactly. Think of a highly advanced game where you have significant choice, but you still can't, say, fly off into space without a spaceship because the code doesn't allow it. This question dives into the deep waters of morality and responsibility. If my actions are merely code running, am I truly accountable for them? Or is the concept of individual agency entirely illusory? Just a convincing user interface designed to give me the feeling of choice.
Wow. And what about the purpose of such a simulation? If there are creators or programmers, why would they, whoever these advanced beings might be, create it in the first place? What's the cosmic rationale behind it all?
Well, there are several compelling possibilities that thinkers have proposed, often drawing from our own motivations for creating simulations or telling stories. One is entertainment. Perhaps we are the ultimate reality show for a more advanced, possibly extraterrestrial audience. Our lives, our triumphs, our heartbreaks, our conflicts could be playing out for their amusement.
Like cosmic voyeurs.
Kind of. We could be the grandest, most immersive form of cosmic entertainment. Another is scientific experimentation. The simulation could serve as a vast, elaborate laboratory to study human behavior under various conditions, maybe test fundamental physical laws, or even explore what-if historical scenarios, like what if the dinosaurs never went extinct? Or what if Rome never fell?
So they're running experiments.
Exactly. They might be seeking solutions to their own existential crises, using our universe as a massive, intricate experimental setup, stress testing physics or pathways of societal development. Then there's ancestral simulation. As Bostrom proposed, advanced humans themselves might simulate their distant ancestors, or people much like us, to gain deeper insights into their own history, evolution, and origins. It's a way of understanding where they came from.
Like a historical reenactment on a cosmic scale.
Precisely. Running countless scenarios to see how their civilization might have evolved, or to explore counterfactual histories. And finally, maybe a training ground. The simulation might serve as a cosmic boot camp, a preparatory stage for inhabitants before they move on to a higher reality or purpose in the base universe. Perhaps the challenges here are designed to forge certain characteristics needed for whatever comes next. Or, conversely, it could be a place for training advanced AIs before they are deployed in their own reality.
That's a lot to take in, and each possibility just raises more questions than answers, really. But here's the pivotal, perhaps most grounding question. Even if we were to somehow definitively discover that we are in a simulation, would it fundamentally alter our daily experiences? Our emotions, our relationships, the joys we feel, the pains we endure, they all feel undeniably, profoundly real to us right here, right now, don't they?
And that's a truly crucial point to remember. It brings us right back to our immediate lived experience. Our subjective experiences, the feeling of love, the pang of sorrow, the warmth of human connection, the taste of a good meal, the exhilaration of achievement, they remain profoundly real to us, regardless of their underlying nature. Whether they are built on physical atoms or intricate lines of code, the feelings, the choices we make, and the relationships we forge within this experience are undeniably our own. Some philosophers argue that if an experience feels real, then for all practical purposes, it is real.
So this leads to maybe two main philosophical stances about how we should proceed, how we should live. Some argue that since our subjective experiences are undeniably real to us, regardless of the theoretical underpinnings, we should just continue to live our lives with the same commitment and focus as if this is base reality. You know, the depth of our feelings and the significance of our choices don't diminish simply because of a theoretical underlying code. Just make the best of the reality we find ourselves in.
That's one approach. Others, however, contend that the hypothesis could inspire a much deeper introspection. It could prompt us to question everything, to seek profound truths, and to engage with our reality in an even more conscious and deliberate way. They might suggest we should try to understand the rules of our simulated world, look for patterns, or even attempt to communicate with the potential programmers. It could be a catalyst for a grand collective quest for ultimate truth or purpose, a sort of existential awakening.
The idea of a simulated reality has truly infiltrated popular culture, hasn't it? It's captivated audiences with its thrilling and often unsettling nature. It's no longer just a niche philosophical debate or an obscure scientific thought experiment. It's a concept that has deeply embedded itself in our collective imagination.
And that's precisely how these cultural touchstones have worked. They've not only entertained millions, but also profoundly shaped public perception and understanding of this complex philosophical concept. They make the abstract tangible, the theoretical relatable, allowing vast audiences to grapple with ideas that might otherwise seem too complex or, frankly, too outlandish.
Let's look at some key examples that have really driven this cultural penetration. First, there's The Matrix from 1999, which we've mentioned a few times. It truly stands as the quintessential pop culture representation, serving as the entry point for millions to the concept of a simulated reality. The iconic red pill, blue pill choice became, and remains, a universal shorthand for questioning reality itself, for confronting uncomfortable truths versus comforting illusions.
Absolutely essential reference point.
Then you have Westworld, the TV series that ran for several seasons. This show brilliantly delves into the ethical and existential questions that arise when simulated beings, in this case, hyper-realistic robots called hosts, begin to achieve self-awareness within their meticulously programmed environment. It forces viewers to ponder consciousness, free will, and the moral responsibilities of creators within a manufactured world. It's a compelling exploration of what happens when the lines between real and artificial completely blur.
A really deep exploration of those themes. And Ready Player One, both the popular novel and the 2018 film adaptation, offers a somewhat lighter yet still deeply thought-provoking take. It depicts a dystopian future where humanity largely escapes a grim real world by immersing themselves in a vast virtual universe called the Oasis. While not a direct simulation of our base reality, it raises crucial questions about the blurred lines between reality and simulation, especially when virtual experiences become preferable or even more fulfilling than the real world. It explores the psychological pull of a perfect digital escape and what that says about our priorities.
And for a more humorous but still incredibly insightful take, the animated adult comedy show Rick and Morty tackles this with episodes like M. Night Shame Aliens, where the characters find themselves trapped in layered simulations, a simulation within a simulation, and so on recursively. It's a comedic, yet incredibly clever exploration of the complex, almost dizzying possibilities of nested realities, showing how difficult it could be to ever find the base layer, if there even is one.
These examples vividly illustrate how the idea of a simulated reality has thoroughly seeped into the collective imagination. They enable people to grapple with these abstract philosophical concepts in a digestible, entertaining way, which in turn continually fuels the broader intellectual and philosophical discussion, making it a topic of ongoing relevance and curiosity.
Okay, now for the million-dollar question that many listeners undoubtedly want to know. Could we ever actually prove it? Can we definitively figure out if we're living in a simulation or if this is the fundamental base reality that just is? Is there a test?
Ah, the proof. It's an elusive quest, one of extreme difficulty. But scientists and philosophers have proposed some intriguing, albeit theoretical, methods for investigation. Though I have to stress, none are currently within our technological grasp. We're talking about probing the very limits of our perceived reality.
One pervasive idea is to actively look for glitches in the system, right? If reality is a simulation, perhaps there would be subtle bugs, inconsistencies, or even errors in the underlying code that we, with sufficiently advanced tools, could maybe detect.
That's right. Physicists have suggested looking for cosmic glitches, unexpected variations or anomalies in fundamental physical laws, particularly at extreme scales or under very specific high-energy conditions. These might hint at the limits or computational constraints of a simulated environment. For instance, if the conservation of energy was subtly violated in certain circumstances, or if information truly disappeared from the universe in ways physics doesn't currently allow, that could be a clue. However, as we mentioned before, so far, the universe exhibits remarkable consistency and adherence to its physical laws. That consistency is often used as a strong argument against the hypothesis. No obvious system errors have popped up yet.
Another approach is to try and check the code of our reality, looking for digital patterns or underlying computational structures that might betray its artificial nature.
This is a fascinating theoretical avenue, deeply rooted in the idea that digital systems are inherently discrete, not infinitely continuous. Properties like the Planck length, the smallest possible unit of space, could theoretically be interpreted as the pixels of our reality, suggesting a discrete rather than infinitely continuous fundamental structure.
The resolution limit of the universe, sort of?
Kinda, yeah. Similarly, the Planck time could be seen as the refresh rate of the simulation. There's also the highly speculative idea of detecting cosmic background noise that might reveal the simulation's foundational code, much like static or digital artifacting in a broadcast. But again, our current technology and understanding of these scales are nowhere near capable of detecting anything like this. It remains firmly in the realm of theoretical physics, for now.
And here's a fascinating meta approach, a kind of self-referential test. If we, as humanity, can eventually create our own complex simulations with conscious beings inside them who are completely unaware of their simulated nature, wouldn't that significantly increase the plausibility of our own reality being a simulation? It's like a grand cosmic domino effect. If we can do it, maybe someone else already has.
Precisely. Current advancements in AI-driven virtual worlds, sophisticated neural networks capable of generating incredibly complex environments, even early steps in brain-computer interfaces. While rudimentary compared to a full reality simulation, these are seen by many as initial steps towards this incredibly ambitious goal. If we achieve it, it lends powerful, almost undeniable support to that statistical argument Bostrom put forth, making our own simulation seem much more likely. It suggests a common developmental trajectory for advanced civilizations.
But this all leads back to the ultimate philosophical problem, doesn't it? Even if we found what seemed like truly compelling evidence, say, a subtle glitch or a pixelated edge to reality, how could we be absolutely sure it wasn't simply another programmed element within the simulation itself, something specifically designed to conceal its true nature and keep us in the dark? Or maybe even test us?
It's the classic epistemological challenge, the problem of how we know what we know. It's like trying to prove you're dreaming while you're still trapped within the dream itself.
Right.
Any evidence you find could just be another part of the dream's narrative, another programmed detail meant to lead you astray or satisfy your curiosity without revealing the truth. This inherent circularity and deep epistemological challenge reinforce why the simulation hypothesis often remains firmly in the realm of philosophy and theoretical speculation, rather than definitively testable science. We might never truly know for sure, no matter how much evidence we accumulate, because the very means of our knowing are potentially part of the system being investigated.
So, after all this exploration, why does this idea captivate us so deeply? Why are we, as a species, so endlessly obsessed with the simulation hypothesis? It goes far beyond just being a cool science fiction trope. It taps into something profoundly human, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It taps into a timeless and universal human impulse. The innate desire to understand the fundamental nature of our existence. It's the latest iteration of that age-old, deeply personal question, is this all there is? It scratches that ancient itch of curiosity about the cosmos, about our place in it, and about the very fabric of reality itself. It forces us to confront grand metaphysical questions, but in a very modern, almost scientific context.
And there's also, I think, a powerful undercurrent of the fear of being controlled, of not being truly sovereign in our own reality. The idea that an unseen entity or a powerful external force might be pulling the strings of our reality is both unsettling and profoundly compelling. It's like wondering if we are merely characters in a grand cosmic play, with someone else, an unknown entity, writing the script and directing the scene. It speaks to our deep-seated desire for autonomy.
True. But conversely, and perhaps surprisingly, the hypothesis can also spark optimism and hope for something more, something grander. If our reality is simulated, it implicitly suggests the existence of a base reality that is even more profound, more complex, and perhaps even more incredible than anything we can currently perceive or imagine. It offers a sense of a larger, grander universe beyond our current understanding, hinting at vastly higher levels of existence and intelligence, which can actually be quite an inspiring thought for many people.
And finally, there's a kind of fascinating technological mirroring at play, as you mentioned earlier. As our own technological capabilities grow to potentially create increasingly convincing virtual worlds, simulations, and advanced artificial intelligences, it naturally leads us to question whether we might already be living in one. It's a reflection of our own advancements projected onto the universe at large, almost as if our current technology is giving us the language and concepts to finally articulate an ancient, lingering doubt about reality.
It's truly a powerful feedback loop. Our technological progress empowers us to conceive of such simulations with growing clarity and possibility, which in turn inevitably leads us to question our own reality through that very lens. It's a self-perpetuating intellectual cycle.
So after all this discussion, let's bring it back home, bring it back to the listener. If we were to definitively find out we're in a simulation, what then? What would it truly change in our daily lives and our immediate experience? Our emotions, our relationships, our joys, our pains, they all feel undeniably real to us, regardless of their underlying nature, don't they? The taste of that coffee, the warmth of a hug, the sting of a setback, those are tangible experiences we live through.
And that's a truly crucial point to remember, one that grounds this entire philosophical discussion. Our subjective experiences, the feeling of love, the pang of sorrow, the warmth of human connection, the simple joy of a good meal, they remain profoundly real to us. Whether they are built on physical atoms in a base reality or intricate lines of code in a simulated one, the feelings and the choices we make within this experience are undeniably our own. The authenticity of our lived experience for many is the ultimate reality, regardless of what might be happening behind the curtain.
So, perhaps the simulation hypothesis isn't really a threat to our reality, but rather an invitation to critical thinking, to question our deepest assumptions, to seek deeper truths about existence, and ultimately to appreciate the reality we currently inhabit, whatever its true nature might be. It encourages a more mindful, engaged existence, maybe.
I like that framing. And here's a final thought-provoking idea for you, the listener, to ponder. If we are indeed in a simulation, perhaps we should strive to make it the best possible one. This idea encourages actions like kindness, exploration, pursuing our dreams, and creating positive experiences for ourselves and others. It even suggests the whimsical notion that our actions might be observed by the creators, potentially earning us a cosmic thumbs up for living well within their grand design, or perhaps even contributing to the advancement of their own knowledge or purpose. It's an interesting perspective on agency and purpose within this framework.
The simulation hypothesis is definitely one of those ideas that is simultaneously thrilling, terrifying, and profoundly humbling. It truly challenges everything we think we know about reality, about consciousness, and about our place in the vast, mysterious cosmos. It's a testament to the boundless depths of human curiosity and our relentless pursuit of understanding.
Absolutely. Whether one finds the hypothesis plausible and statistically compelling, or simply a captivating thought experiment to expand the mind, it serves as a powerful reminder. A reminder of the immense mysteries that still surround us and the endless capacity for human curiosity and intellectual exploration. It keeps us asking the big questions, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So what do you think? Are we living in a simulation, or is this just a wild idea spun by philosophers, scientists, and science fiction enthusiasts? Whatever your conclusion, we truly hope this exploration has been a remarkable journey through the very nature of reality for you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive. It's about something you encounter, well, every single day, actually, often without even realizing, its profound influence. Our mission today, and it's great for some advanced English listening practice, is to unpack the psychology of color in art and advertising. Have you ever stopped to think why, say, a bright red billboard just grabs your attention, makes your pulse quicken a bit, or why looking at a serene blue painting can bring such a strong sense of calm? You see, colors aren't just, visually appealing. They're incredibly potent. They're silently shaping our emotions, kind of molding our perceptions, and even steering our decisions. It's quite subtle sometimes.
It really is remarkable. We often just dismiss color as, purely aesthetic, something that just makes things look nice. But as we'll explore today, these powerful hues, they act like master storytellers and strategic psychological instruments that creators, artists, advertisers skillfully wield. They use them to evoke specific feelings, to build compelling narratives, and to prompt particular actions. Think about it from a masterpiece by Van Gogh that really stirs something deep inside you, to that universally recognized Coca-Cola ad that just brings up feelings of nostalgia, maybe celebration. Color does so much heavy lifting. It speaks to us on a level, deeper than words often can.
That's a fantastic way to frame it, master storytellers and strategic instruments. So get ready to journey with us into this really vibrant world, exploring how colors work their magic. In art, yes, but also in commercial campaigns all around us. It's a field that genuinely bridges art and science, offering insights you can start noticing in your own life. We're basically pulling back the curtain on this often overlooked yet hugely influential part of our world.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this subtle power, let's start right at the beginning. We need to define what we actually mean by color psychology. At its core, it's the systematic study, the examination of how different colors sway human emotions, how they influence our behaviors, how they alter our perceptions. And it's a discipline that goes way beyond just looking nice, beyond mere aesthetics. It digs deep into the profound impact colors have on our internal states, our feelings, and crucially, our actions. We're talking about how a visual thing, a color, can trigger physiological responses, emotional responses, without you even consciously thinking about it.
Right. So when we talk about color shaping emotions, is that something we learn, or is there something, deeper going on inside us? What exactly is color psychology trying to figure out beyond just, oh, that looks pretty, like you see a vivid yellow and boom, you feel joy, maybe cheerful, or a deep gray might make you feel thoughtful, introspective, perhaps even a bit melancholy. Is that the same for everyone?
That's a brilliant question, and it really gets right to the heart of it. Artists and advertisers, well, they've understood this for centuries, harnessing this knowledge to convey complex ideas. Ideas that words alone often struggle to capture effectively. Think about it. A single shade can communicate a whole mood, a complex feeling, in an instant. No words needed. It's like a subconscious language. Now, your question about universality, that's critical, because it's definitely not universal. How we process and react to colors, it's shaped by, well, let's call it a tripartite foundation. Three key factors all tangled up. First off, there's our biological wiring. Our brains seem to have this evolutionary predisposition to react to certain colors. Take red, for example. It can instinctively signal danger, think blood, fire, or it can evoke intense excitement. When our eyes see red, our brain, specifically the amygdala, that ancient part dealing with fight or flight, often kicks into a higher gear. This can actually measurably increase our heart rate, maybe give a little adrenaline boost. It's like an echo from our past, when red meant immediate danger, or maybe ripe fruit, or a rival's anger. Conversely, green often feels soothing, reassuring. It's strongly linked to the tranquility of nature, to plants, to water. Our ancestors learned these associations. Certain colors meant safety, food, danger, and those are still kind of baked into our neurology.
That makes perfect sense, like a built-in alarm system or a natural chill pill, depending on the color. So a bright red berry might mean eat me, which is good, but a red face could mean anger, a threat. It's nuanced, even biologically. Okay, so biology is piece one. What's the second part of this foundation?
Exactly. Nuance is key. The second factor is cultural context. This is huge. The meanings, the interpretations we give colors, they're far from universal. They vary dramatically across different societies. They're deeply shaped by history, by religion, by local customs. Think about the stark contrast with white. In many Western cultures, it symbolizes purity, innocence, weddings, right? New beginnings. But in numerous Asian traditions, white represents mourning, death. It's often worn at funerals. This kind of difference means global communicators, artists, brands, they have to be incredibly careful, really mindful. You definitely wouldn't want to send a message of sorrow when you're aiming for joy.
Wow, yeah. That highlights why a global brand can't just slap the same colors everywhere. A simple design choice could backfire badly. Okay, biology, culture. What's the third factor shaping how we see color?
The third piece is personal experience. And this is where it gets really individual. Our own unique life memories, our personal histories, they play a massive role in how we perceive colors. Maybe a specific shade of purple was the color of your favorite grandparent's sweater, or maybe your childhood bedroom walls were a certain blue. That color could, just like that, trigger feelings of warmth, comfort, and nostalgia for you, regardless of what it means biologically or culturally for others. These personal connections are incredibly potent, often working below the surface, influencing our immediate gut reaction to a color in a way that's totally unique to us.
So it's this fascinating mix then. Our deep biology, the society we live in, and our own personal story. Given all that, how does the role of color change when we compare, say, an artist creating a painting versus a company designing an ad? The intention must be different.
You're absolutely spot on. The intent shifts dramatically. In artistic creation, colors are often used to establish the emotional mood of a piece. They guide the viewer subtly through a narrative or an emotional journey. Artists use color to fill their work with feeling, with purpose, to create a whole world on the canvas that resonates deeply. It's about evoking an experience, a mood, telling a story, sometimes very abstractly. They might use color to show time passing, or an inner feeling, or maybe create harmony, or deliberately create discord. It's about expression, meaning.
And in the commercial world, it's much more directed, less about feeling, more about doing.
Definitely more directed. In commercial strategy, colors are chosen very meticulously, not just to look good, but very strategically. They need to capture attention, first and foremost. Then forge a distinct brand identity, and subtly encourage consumers towards a specific action, making a purchase, clicking a link, remembering the brand. The strategic use is a key part of persuasive communication. It's designed to influence behavior, influence perception, often subconsciously. It's about efficiency, impact, and trying to get a fairly predictable response from the audience.
That really sets the scene perfectly. Okay, let's dive into the colors themselves, this emotional powerhouse. And where better to start than with red, the catalyst of intensity. We link it with passion, urgency, excitement, but also danger. What gives red its punch?
Red is, as we touched on, truly primal. When we see red, there's a measurable physiological thing happening. It's been shown to increase heart rate, boost adrenaline. It commands attention like no other color. That link to survival instincts, blood, fire, maybe even ripe fruit, makes it both appealing and potentially alarming. It's a color that just shouts, "Look at me," or "Act now." It's almost impossible to ignore.
In art, yeah, red is a total showstopper. It demands your focus. Think about Mark Rothko's Name 61, Rust in Blue. Those huge, deep, almost pulsating reds. They aren't just paint. They create this emotional intensity that can feel almost spiritual. Viewers might feel awe, passion, maybe even unease. You can practically feel the color vibrating, pulling you in.
Or contrast that with something like Caravaggio's Judith beheading Holofernes. That visceral crimson blood just ramps up the horror of the drama. In art, red is incredibly versatile. It can stand for intense love, burning anger, revolution, sacrifice. Artists use it when they need an immediate, undeniable, often raw emotional hit. Its power is significant.
And in advertising, red is definitely the go-to for agency. You see it everywhere. You're supposed to act fast. Fast food chains, McDonald's, KFC, Wendy's, they use red to stimulate appetite, create that immediate eat now feeling. It's not an accident you suddenly feel hungry seeing those golden arches on red, right? It's a psychological nudge.
Absolutely. Coca-Cola's famous red logo. It taps into warmth, nostalgia, boldness. It invites you to taste the feeling. It's so tied to the brand, it triggers emotions before you even read the name. And think about retail sales signs. They're almost always red. Why? Because it screams, act fast or you'll miss out. It's designed for that impulse buy. Many beauty brands like L'Oreal also use it, suggesting passion, confidence, power.
And there's solid proof for this red action link. I remember reading about a study, I think from 2014. It showed red backgrounds in ads actually increased bidding in online options. It wasn't just a theory. It measurably triggered competitiveness urgency.
Yes, exactly. And here's a fun fact tying it together. Red can genuinely heighten feelings of hunger, which completely explains why it's plastered all over food branding. It's really not a coincidence. Pizza boxes are often red, or restaurants use red decor. It's a subtle but effective way to get you to consume more.
Okay, from red's fiery intensity, let's shift gears completely. Let's talk about blue, the essence of calm and credibility. This one evokes trust, serenity, reliability, sometimes sadness too. How does blue achieve such a different effect?
Blue is really interesting because studies consistently show it's the world's most popular color. People just like blue. It's widely linked with stability, tranquility, peace, think clear skies, calm seas. Physiologically, it can actually lower blood pressure and heart rate. It fosters a feeling of safety, approachability. It feels secure. But like you said, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Too much blue, especially darker shades, can feel cold, detached, even lean into melancholy. Balance is key.
In art, blue feels like the color of looking inward, of depth. Claude Monet's Water Lilies series, for instance. Those soft, shimmering blues create such a calm, almost meditative vibe. The way he layered the blues just pulls you into the water's gentle movement. It feels peaceful, deep.
And then you contrast that with Picasso's blue period. Think of the old guitarist. He uses these cold, muted blues to just flood the canvas with loneliness, poverty, despair. That pervasive blue sets a somber, melancholic mood instantly. It shows how adaptable blue is for artists exploring both peace and pain.
And in advertising, blue is definitely the king of trust and professionalism. Tech giants, IBM, Intel, Facebook, they use blue in their branding to signal reliability, competence. You trust their systems.
Right. And financial institutions, Chase, American Express, PayPal, they lean heavily on blue. It conveys security, stability. It's basically saying, your money is safe here. We're dependable.
It's also super popular for social media platforms. It feels approachable, but also secure. Fosters connection without being too loud or overwhelming. It's the color that quietly says, you can count on us. There was a study, I think, in 2018 about packaging. It found blue packaging significantly boosted consumer trust in health products. It wasn't just a small effect. It strongly suggested cleanliness, dependability, maybe even scientific backing, crucial for anything health-related.
Absolutely. And here's something many of us experience daily. Blue light, the kind from our screens, suppresses melatonin. That's the sleep hormone, which is exactly why staring at your phone or computer late at night can mess with your sleep. Advertisers, maybe even app designers, might subtly leverage this to keep you engaged longer, scrolling away, sometimes without you realizing the physiological effect.
That's slightly unsettling. Okay, next up, yellow, the burst of sunshine and alert. Its emotions seem to be optimism, energy, cheerfulness, but also caution. It's bright, but maybe a bit tricky.
That's a good way to put it. Tricky. Yellow is the brightest color our eyes perceive, so it grabs attention faster than anything else. It's naturally linked to sunlight, warmth, so it sparks feelings of joy, optimism, energy. It's hard to miss. However, it's also the most fatiguing color for the eye if you look at it too long. That high brightness takes effort to process, and overuse can feel jarring, aggressive, maybe even convey a sense of being cheap or low quality. You have to handle yellow with care.
In art, yellow can be pure radiance. Van Gogh's sunflowers just burst with vibrant yellows. It's not just depicting flowers, it's like bottling the feeling of a bright sunny day, pure energy and joy.
But yellow can also crank up the tension. Look at Edvard Munch's The Scream. That sickly, jarring yellow sky really amplifies the anxiety, the existential dread of that figure. Makes the whole scene feel wrong, unsettling. So artists often use yellow sparingly, like a spice, carefully placed to highlight, not overwhelm. It's powerful, both positively and negatively.
And for advertising, yellow is definitely an attention magnet. That's why it's everywhere on taxis, school buses, construction signs. They need to be impossible to miss, signaling caution or just look here.
Right. Brands like IKEA, Snapchat, and Icon use yellow to project being youthful, fun, maybe innovative. McDonald's uses it brilliantly with red. That dynamic duo screams energy, appetite, speed. But here's the caution. Too much yellow can seem aggressive or low budget, or even cause anxiety. That's why you rarely see luxury brands using yellow heavily. It's a fine line between cheerful and just too much.
A 2020 study I saw mentioned yellow in ads boosted click-through rates online because it naturally draws the eye straight to things like buy now buttons. It just pulls your focus.
Exactly. And here's a fascinating snippet about yellow. It's the very first color the human eye processes. Makes it super effective for that initial grab, that visual ping. But as we said, potentially risky for long exposure because it tires the eyes. That's why you don't see whole websites in bright yellow.
Okay, shifting from that bright, sometimes tricky yellow, let's explore green. The embrace of nature and growth. This one brings feelings of growth, harmony, freshness, but also sometimes envy. How does green manage this mostly positive spectrum?
Green is just so deeply tied to the natural world. It almost automatically evokes tranquility, renewal, balance. It's very easy on the eyes, visually restful, and actually has stress-reducing qualities. Seeing green tends to calm us down, maybe signaling safety, resources. But yeah, there's that idiom, green with envy, suggesting jealousy, or greenhorn, meaning inexperienced. So it does have those other subtle connotations.
Artistically, green is the ultimate ambassador for nature, for calm. John Singer, Surgeon's Carnation, Lily Rose uses these lush, varied greens. It creates this serene, almost magical garden scene. Feels like a perfect summer evening. It just invites peace.
Yet green can also have darker shades, more mysterious qualities. Think of Gustav Klink's The Park. He uses deep, almost enigmatic greens. It implies both beauty and maybe some hidden secrets within nature. It shows green can balance calm with complexity. That's why it's so popular for landscapes, but also in works with deeper symbolic layers.
In advertising, green screams healthy, natural, sustainable, instantly. Whole Foods' earthy green logo feels inherently wholesome, organic. It communicates their brand value immediately.
And Starbucks' iconic green mermaid. It brings up freshness, maybe growth, community. It aligns with their image of natural ingredients, a welcoming space. Financial brands too, like TD Bank or Fidelity, use green, not for nature, but to signify growth, prosperity, flourishing money. A little warning though, overuse or very bright artificial greens can sometimes feel clinical, like hospital scrubs, or even a bit sickly. Context and shade really matter.
I remember reading about a 2019 study showing green packaging made people perceive products as more eco-friendly. Even if the product itself wasn't particularly green, just the color created that perception. That's powerful.
It really is. And here's why it's so calming. Green is considered the most restful color for the human eye. Your eyes just don't have to work as hard to see it. That's why it's used strategically in places meant to be calm spas, libraries, waiting rooms. It literally reduces visual strain.
From nature's calm, let's move to something more. Regal. Purple. The regal touch of creativity. This evokes luxury, creativity, mystery, individuality. Purple seems to have this special, elevated status. Why is that?
You're right, purple does feel distinct. Historically, its rarity in nature was key. For ages, getting a truly vibrant purple dye was incredibly hard and expensive, often from tiny sea snails. This gave it an aura of exclusivity, intrigue, royalty. It's widely linked now with creativity, spirituality, even a touch of magic. It kind of bridges the gap between fiery red and calm blue. But overuse can make it feel maybe distant, artificial, or perhaps a bit too eccentric for some tastes.
In art, purple adds that touch of magic, of depth. Gustav Klimt's The Kiss, for example. Those little touches of purple woven into the gold, they elevate the whole dreamy, opulent feel. Adds to the sense of something special, luxurious.
And think about Frida Kahlo. Her self-portraits often use purple, not just because it looks nice, but to emphasize her bold individuality, her deep spiritual side. It was like a visual shorthand for her unique view, her inner strength, and that historical weight. As we said, purple dyes being so costly means it inherently carries this legacy of wealth, prestige. It was literally the color of emperors.
And for advertising, purple means opulence, innovation, maybe playful sophistication. Cadbury's chocolate, that rich purple packaging, instantly says indulgent, premium treat. You see it, you think luxury chocolate.
Exactly. Brands like Yahoo, Twitch, Hallmark use it too, maybe to stand out as creative, unique, perhaps a bit whimsical. Purple's relative rarity and history make it great for brands wanting to project exclusivity, artistic flair, or innovative thinking. It's just special, maybe even a bit cutting edge.
A 2021 study found purple logos boosted perceptions of a brand's creativity, especially for tech and media firms. So the color itself can actually prime people to see a company as more imaginative. That's valuable.
Definitely. And just to hammer on the history, purple was so insanely expensive back in ancient times, only royalty could really afford it. That's why it got the nickname Imperial Purple. That legacy of kings and queens still subtly colors how we perceive it today.
Okay, finally, let's talk about the fundamental duo, black and white, the eternal duet of contrast. Black evokes power, elegance, mystery, sometimes mourning. White suggests purity, simplicity, cleanliness, but also mourning in some places. These two, often seen as non-colors, pack a huge punch, don't they?
Oh, absolutely huge. Black works by absorbing almost all light. This creates a feeling of seriousness, authority, gravity. Also sleekness, minimal sophistication. White does the opposite. It reflects nearly all light. That conveys openness, purity, cleanliness, modernity. Both, despite looking simple, carry complex, often contrasting cultural baggage. They're fundamental tools in visual language.
Artistically, black and white are masters of stark contrast, timeless drama. Think of Ansel Adams's iconic black and white photos, like Moonrise, Hernandez. He uses those deep, velvety blacks and brilliant whites to make landscapes feel monumental, eternal, incredibly dramatic, using just two colors.
Or Kazimir Malevich's revolutionary white on white. That challenges you with its extreme minimalism, exploring abstraction, maybe nothingness.
Yeah.
Makes you really think about form. Or even Jackson Pollock's black and white drip paintings. They feel so raw, chaotic, full of energy. Shows how much emotion and motion you can get with just these two. Deceptively simple, immensely powerful.
And in advertising, black signals sleekness, sophistication, exclusivity. Apple's minimalist packaging, Chanel's iconic black and white logo, they radiate timeless elegance, high fashion, understated luxury.
White, meanwhile, strongly signals cleanliness, freshness, modernity. Brands like Dove use it for purity. Apple uses it too, showing versatility. The North Face uses it for freshness, reliability. But again, that crucial cultural point. In some cultures, white means mourning, which is exactly why global brands like Nike are super careful adjusting their color palettes for different markets to avoid major missteps.
A 2022 study found black and white ads actually increased attention for luxury brands, apparently by creating an atmosphere of exclusivity and sharp focus. Stripping away color forces you to look at form, quality, makes it feel more premium.
Exactly, and technically it's fascinating. Black is the absence of all color, absorbing everything. White is the presence of all colors combined, reflecting everything back. Perfect opposites working together to create maximum impact, endless possibilities.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit and look at the artistic canvas overall. In art, color is so much more than just decoration. It really functions as this potent storytelling tool, guiding our emotions, shaping the story. It's like a silent language.
Absolutely. Artists use color not just to fill space, but intentionally. To set a mood, create depth, infuse meaning. They often use sophisticated techniques from color theory to amplify the impact. Every choice, the hue, the saturation, how colors sit next to each other, it all tells part of the story. It's not random, there's deep thought behind it.
And a big part of that is understanding color harmony and contrast. Artists use theory to create either calm cohesion or dynamic energy.
That's right, you have analogous colors. Those are neighbors on the color wheel, like blue, blue, green, green. They blend nicely, creating a unified, soothing, harmonious feel. Think Monet's water lilies. Again, those blues and greens flowing together, making it feel calm, integrated, dreamy. Then you have complementary colors. They're opposites on the color wheel, red and green, blue and orange. They create high contrast, vibrant energy. They make each other pop. Van Gogh's Cafe Terrace at night is a perfect example. That intense blue sky gets a bright orange-yellow cafe light. It just sizzles with energy and warmth because of that contrast.
That contrast really makes things jump out, vibrate almost. What about warm versus cool tones? How do artists play with those?
Ah, yes. Warm colors, reds, oranges, yellows. They tend to feel like they're coming towards you. They feel closer, more energetic, inviting, evoke warmth, passion, excitement. Cool colors, blues, greens, purples, they seem to recede, move back into the distance. They add depth, create a sense of calm, coolness, maybe melancholy. That's why sunset paintings feel so alive. Those warm oranges and yellows jump out against the cool blues and purples of the sky. Creates that vivid push and pull, depth and strong emotion. Artists use this constantly.
Let's touch on a few more iconic art examples where color is just central. Henri Matisse's The Dance, those bold, almost raw reds, greens, blues, they create this amazing feeling of wild, joyful movement. Captures human connection, primal energy through pure, uninhibited color.
And then there's James McNeill, Whistler's arrangement in Gray and Black No. 1, better known as Whistler's Mother. A masterpiece in using a very muted palette, mostly grays and blacks. It evokes quiet dignity, deep thought, timelessness. It shows that restraint, using very little obvious color, can be incredibly powerful, creating a deep, contemplative mood.
And something totally different. Wassily Kandinsky's Composition 7. It's just this chaotic explosion of colors, an abstract piece using almost every hue imaginable, swirling dynamically. It aims to convey complex, spiritual, emotional ideas purely through color and form. Shows how color can go beyond representing things, just evoke pure feeling.
And artists also fine-tune things by manipulating saturation, the intensity or purity of a color, and value its lightness or darkness. A bright, fully saturated red feels bold, urgent, it shouts. But a muted, desaturated, darker red might suggest something somber, quiet longing, maybe a deeper romance or mystery. It's about finding the exact emotional note.
Shifting to the persuasive palette now, it's really clear advertisers are like, well, color psychologists in disguise. They expertly use hues to subtly nudge our emotions, guide our behavior.
Oh, absolutely. Advertisers know color can trigger clicks, drive sales, build trust, often without us consciously realizing it. They wield this power very precisely, doing tons of research on how colors affect their target audience. It's a strategic art form aimed right at our subconscious.
And color is just fundamental to brand recognition. It often becomes synonymous with the company. The color is the brand sometimes, like Tiffany & Co.'s unique Robin's Egg Blue. That specific shade feels exclusive, yet somehow approachable. Instantly recognizable on the box, signals luxury, a special gift.
Or Coca-Cola's classic red. Bold, nostalgic, energetic. The silver touches add modernity, makes the brand feel timeless but current. And Starbucks green. That specific earthy green of their mermaid logo brings up freshness, nature, community, sustainability, matches their brand message perfectly. These colors are so iconic, you often recognize the brand just from the color, no logo needed. A 2017 study found consistent color use can boost brand recognition by something like 80%. That's a massive impact from a design choice.
Advertisers also tailor color schemes very carefully for specific demographics, right? Knowing different groups respond differently.
Definitely. For instance, soft pastels, gentle pinks, baby blues, lavenders often target feminine or younger audiences. Think brands like Glossier or Tarte. Evokes softness, lightness. Then you have bright neons, hot pinks, electric greens, vibrant yellows. They scream young and edgy. Used by brands like Supreme or Monster Energy, aiming for a specific energetic, maybe rebellious crowd. And neutrals, beiges, grays, whites. These appeal to luxury or minimalist markets. Think Tesla or Allbirds. They convey sophistication, simplicity, often quality.
Colors also get used as direct signals for action, like silent commands. Bright attention getters like red, orange, yellow are super common for call to action buttons. Buy now, sign up. They grab the eye, create urgency.
And there's solid data backing this. A 2020 study in a marketing journal showed changing a button color to red boosted click-through rates by about 21% compared to neutral colors. It's not guesswork. It's a proven way to drive immediate action.
Now, we've touched on this, but it's so crucial. Color meanings aren't universal. Creators have to consider cultural and personal context. These layers of meaning are vital.
Absolutely critical. Take white again. Purity, weddings in the West. But in many Asian cultures, deeply linked to death, funerals. Remember that Pepsi story in China? Their blue and white cans accidentally looked like funeral colors to locals. Major backlash, a simple color choice, huge negative impact.
And red. In China, it's all about good fortune, joy, celebration, think Lunar New Year. But in the West, it often signals danger, warning, stop. Same color, totally different vibe depending on location.
Green, too. Sacred in Islamic cultures, linked to paradise. But in the West, sometimes implies envy. Green with envy. or even sickness. That's exactly why huge global brands, Nike, Coca-Cola, Unilever, spend time and money adapting their colors and ads for different international markets. They can't afford cultural missteps.
And beyond culture, our own personal experiences shape how we react, sometimes overriding everything else. Maybe your childhood bedroom was green, so green always feels cozy and safe to you. Or if your favorite sports team's color is orange, seeing orange might always give you a little jolt of excitement, even on, say, a juice carton.
Advertisers know this. They try to tap into those personal connections, using colors to trigger nostalgia, familiarity. Artists do it too. Think Andy Warhol using those bright, familiar colors from Campbell's soup cans. It plays on our everyday consumer culture memories.
It's really fascinating how much actual science supports all this. It's not just subjective feeling, it's rooted in physiology and psychology. Our brains are wired for this.
Definitely. The amygdala in the brain, the bit handling emotions and fight or flight, shows measurable responses to different colors. Research consistently finds red increases heart rate, appetite explaining its use in food branding, like Pizza Hut, Burger King. Blue actively lowers blood pressure, fosters calm, making it ideal for healthcare, finance, tech brands.
Yellow stimulates mental activity, but can cause eye strain if overdone, hence its careful use, often just for highlights or calls to action. And green reduces stress, links to nature-enhancing perceptions of eco-friendliness or well-being.
A key study in Nature Neuroscience back in 2015 showed color perception happens in the visual cortex incredibly fast, mere milliseconds. It influences our emotions before we even consciously realize what we're seeing. It's a rapid, powerful, almost subconscious effect. And it's not just the hue. Saturation and brightness matter too. Vivid colors grab attention, signal urgency. Muted tones feel calmer, more sophisticated, maybe sadder.
Okay, so with all this amazing insight, how can we use color psychology practically? Not just artists and advertisers, but, us in daily life.
Good question. For artists, it's about consciously setting the mood. Use warm colors, reds, oranges for energy, excitement, cool colors, blues, greens for calm, distance. Play with saturation. A muted blue feels very different from a bright one. Also, playing with contrast is key. Complementary colors create dynamism, tension. Analogous colors create harmony, unity. A red-green clash feels bold. A blue-green blend feels smooth. And importantly, consider symbolism. Think about the cultural, personal meanings of colors in your specific context. Red could be love in one painting, anger in another. And for advertisers, the key takeaways. First, match the brand identity. Pick colors that genuinely reflect the brand's personality. Blue for trust, purple for luxury, yellow for fun. It has to feel authentic. Second, know your audience. Tailor colors to demographics, pastels for softer audiences, bold colors for younger ones, neutrals for upscale markets. And third, crucial, test and iterate. Always A/B test different color schemes, button colors, visuals. Find out empirically what works best. Remember that HubSpot study? 21% conversion boost just by changing a button from green to red. That's real impact.
Incredible how such a small change yields big results. And for us, just living our lives.
Start by observing your reactions. Just notice how colors affect you. Does your blue bedroom actually calm you down? Does that red mug make your morning coffee feel more energizing? You can also decorate with intent. Maybe use green in your workspace for focus, yellow in the kitchen for creativity and cheerfulness. And finally, shop smart. Be aware of how ads use color to influence you. That bright red sale sign. It's designed to make you act fast, maybe before thinking too hard.
Now, color psychology is powerful, but it's not foolproof, right? There are pitfalls, complexities.
Absolutely right. One big issue is overuse. Too much of one color, especially a vibrant one like yellow, can just be overwhelming, irritating. Balance is key. Then there's the constant risk of cultural missteps. You absolutely need to research your audience to avoid using a color that's positive in one place but offensive elsewhere. And finally, simple subjectivity. Personal experiences differ. A color one person finds calming, another might find boring, or even dislike due to a bad memory. There's no single magic bullet for everyone.
Let's look at a couple more powerful case studies. In art, Mark Rothko's color fields like orange, red, yellow, huge canvases of pure, vibrant color, they aim to evoke deep emotional, even spiritual responses. Those warm oranges, reds feel intensely alive, pulsing. The soft edges invite contemplation. People cry in front of them. Shows color's raw power.
And in advertising, Apple's use of white and black is just a masterclass in simplicity and elegance. The clean white packaging says modern, innovative. Black accents add sophistication, premium feel. That minimalist palette makes their products seem timeless, desirable, exclusive, yet broadly appealing.
And a cool crossover. Banksy's street art. often uses bold red and black against stark white walls, creates visually arresting, politically charged images.
That strategic color, use red for urgency, protest, black for weight, seriousness, against neutral white, grabs attention instantly, keeps the message sharp, clear. It's art with an advertising-like punch.
Looking ahead, how is technology changing color psychology?
It's evolving fast. Digital screens are a big factor. Colors look different on monitors versus print. Plus, the whole issue of blue light affecting mood and sleep is huge. Then you have immersive tech VR, AR. They're opening new doors for deep color experiences. Imagine ads changing color based on your mood, or art installations shifting hues as you interact. Really personalized, but potentially profound impact.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Also, sustainability is influencing choices. Eco-conscious brands often favor greens, earth tones. Others focus on digital-first palettes optimized for screens, since that's where most interaction happens now. And this field called neuroaesthetics is emerging. It studies how art affects the brain, revealing more about how colors trigger specific neural responses, gives creators even finer tools. It's an exciting time.
So as we wrap up this really vibrant deep dive, it's just so clear. Color is way more than just decoration. It's this pervasive force shaping how we feel, think, act. In art, it weaves stories, evokes deep emotion. In advertising, it sells products, builds iconic brands.
From Rothko's soul-stirring reds to Coca-Cola's globally recognized nostalgic logo, color truly acts as a universal language. It speaks directly to our hearts, our minds, often bypassing conscious thought. It influences us without a single word. A silent, powerful communicator.
So next time you're captivated by a painting, maybe lost in its blues, or you feel subtly nudged by an ad, perhaps a red Buy Now button, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, what is this color actually doing to me? What feeling is it trying to spark? What action is it pushing me towards?
You might uncover this hidden, really compelling conversation happening right there between the creator and your own subconscious.
Yeah, and we really encourage you to explore this further. Start just by noticing colors around you every day. How do they affect your mood, your choices, even what you feel like eating? Are you drawn to certain colors and clothes? Do some objects at home make you feel more relaxed or more energized? And beyond just noticing, maybe play with color yourself, in a sketch, a social media post, even just rearranging things in a room. The psychology of color is this huge, fascinating playground. And now, well, you're definitely in on the magic.
If you enjoyed this deep dive and you want to keep expanding your understanding, maybe practice your English listening too. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab YouTube channel. Your support really helps us bring more content like this to you. Ever feel like your life is just bursting at the seams with stuff? You know, clothes you don't wear, gadgets you forgot you even own, maybe a schedule so packed you just can't catch a break. If that feeling, that sort of overwhelm, sounds familiar, well, you are definitely not alone. It's pretty common these days, isn't it? Just like the default mode is just more stuff, more to do. So today we're diving deep into something that might be an answer to that feeling. Minimalism. Now hang on. Before you picture us tossing everything out and, living like monks in some bare room, unless that is your thing, totally fine. Just push past those first impressions. Minimalism isn't really about deprivation or like having absolutely nothing. It's fundamentally about something deeper than that. The real core promise, I think, is about creating space. I mean, yeah, physical space in your house, sure. But the really big insight, it's the power it has over our mental bandwidth. Think about it. Every single thing you own, every ping on your phone, every commitment you're juggling, it all takes a tiny bit of your headspace, right? Your cognitive energy. So minimalism isn't just about tidy surfaces.
It's about lowering that cognitive load, freeing up your mind for, creativity, focus, just being present. It's stripping away the extra stuff to get to what's essential. So you can put your energy, your time, your money toward what really makes your life better. Okay, let's unpack this. In this deep dive, we're going to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights from your sources on minimalism. Our mission here is to help you specifically understand what's valuable about this whole idea and, maybe more importantly, how it could actually apply to your life. Maybe you're a busy parent, maybe a student figuring things out, or maybe you're just curious about living, more intentionally. This is meant to be your shortcut to getting really informed, maybe even inspired. So let's get into it.
It's interesting, isn't it? How often the word minimalism just brings up images. Stark rooms, maybe someone living out of a tiny backpack. But as you dig in, you find it's richer than that, more nuanced, and definitely more adaptable than people first think. It really can fit almost any lifestyle, which is kind of the beauty of it.
That's such a key point to start with, yeah. So let's try and pin down what minimalism really is, beyond just how it looks. At its heart, it seems to be about intentionally focusing on what's essential, right? And then consciously letting go of the rest. It's not just like a weekend project to clean the garage, though that could be part of it, I guess. It's more of a mindset shift, an ongoing one, sort of pushes you to keep asking this really important question. What truly adds value to my life? And that's not just about physical stuff, is it? It's commitments, relationships, maybe even like the thoughts rattling around in your head. The idea of discernment seems critical here. Something could be an object, an appointment, even a belief if it doesn't spark joy or serve a real purpose or, fit with your goals. Maybe it doesn't belong. It's about being really selective about what you allow into your ecosystem.
Precisely. And the ultimate goal isn't just an empty house. That's not the point. It's aiming for a life that genuinely feels lighter, clearer, definitely more intentional. When you start removing the noise, the clutter, the excess stuff, it kind of clears a path. You start seeing what you actually care about. And then this is the key part. You have the energy and the time to actually do something about those priorities.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me. Minimalism looks totally different for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. For some people, yeah, maybe it is that sleek apartment. Just a few really special items, everything with a purpose. They like that visual quiet. But for someone else, it could be a busy family home, full of stuff maybe. But it's the right stuff, the things that actually support their, chaotic but wonderful life. The real point isn't how much you own, is it? It's the why behind it, the intentionality. There's no strict rule book saying how many shoes you're allowed or anything like that. Instead, it's about this freedom to figure out what enough means for you right now in your life. Finding that balance, that sweet spot that's just right for your needs, your values.
That adaptability is one of the most striking things about it. It really does move beyond a simple definition. It becomes this deeply personal philosophy. It empowers you to choose.
Yeah.
And that flexibility is probably why it's so appealing and why it can last. It works across so many different lifestyles and preferences. It's definitely not some exclusive club. It's more about, self-discovery and living consciously, less about following a strict style guide.
Right. So even though minimalism feels very current, like a new trend, it actually has a pretty interesting history. Its roots go back, to the 1960s? Started out as an art and design movement, thinking about artists like Donald Judd, famous for those stark, simple works, right?
Yeah.
Geometric shapes, stacked boxes, celebrating less. The idea wasn't to add more detail. It was about stripping things right down, letting people engage with just the form of the space. And that look, that aesthetic, it quickly spread into architecture, interior design. Clean lines, open spaces, bold simplicity, function over frills. It was kind of a deliberate pushback against clutter, aiming for intentional clarity.
Yeah, and that artistic philosophy definitely laid some important groundwork, no question. But it really exploded into a lifestyle thing much later. You fast forward to the 2000s. That's when you see figures like Joshua Fields Millburn and Ryan Nicodemus, the minimalist, really bringing it into the mainstream, making it feel like a tangible way to live. Their story really struck a chord with people. They came from these high-powered corporate jobs, had all this stuff, big houses, fancy cars, you name it, the whole package. But they felt, empty, stressed out, overwhelmed by it all, so they made this huge change. Ditched the corporate life, got rid of most of their possessions, really reevaluated what mattered, and just by sharing their own journey, they inspired millions, showed people there was another way, a way that prioritized experiences, relationships, growth, instead of just buying more stuff.
And once they planted that seed, wow, the idea just took off.